Okay, everybody, we're going to do a little voting. I think we're going to do some pension bills first.
Senate Bill 402 may or may not have a reprint available. This was an administration bill. There was provisions included last year in the BRFA that allowed reemployment earnings offset exemptions for certain employees going back to work for Department of Health or Department of Labor working on COVID response. So this bill is extending those provisions in this bill for another year to the end of this calendar year. There is an amendment that the subcommittee voted in concept that we now have before you, and it's just regarding the Department of Health employees. There was a few that were not included within the scope of the language as introduced, and so the amendment includes them. The first change will be on line 16 of page 1. Instead of saying by previously employed by the Maryland Department of Health, it would be previously employed by the state of Maryland. And then an additional employment criteria by Department of Health being that they were reemployed working as a member of the Unified COVID Command, working on projects related to staffing support and contact tracing.
Okay, is this good?
Good.
Yep.
Move favorable on the amendment and the bill.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
Next is Senate Bill 458. This bill deals with the supplemental retirement plans and their MVE reporting. Current law, the reporting requirements don't align with what they actually do. And so the bill aligns the MVE reporting requirements. So instead of reporting about brokerage and investment management, it's reporting about investment advisor and fund manager services that are used by supplemental plans. And then there's one amendment. There was a request by General Services to just add a reference to the state's electronic procurement system when this would be on page 2, line 32, including the use for doing the outreach.
Is this good, Senator Elfreth? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, next.
Senate Bill 566, this is a joint committee on pensions bill. This bill codifies the consideration by the system as a fiduciary duty of climate risk when investing the system assets. It sets forth a number of information gathering and data considerations for the system, authorizes them to establish certain advisory committees. So largely it's going to be codifying a lot of what the system is already doing, but codifying that fiduciary duty will ensure that it is in Maryland law, and that also will insulate the system a little bit from any fluctuations in the federal standards regarding.
Is this differentiated from, we've had some things in the past where the issues of climate have come up, and they actually, I think, required action.
So what this requires is the consideration of the climate risk. That may include divesting, but it also includes provisions requiring the system to look at investment opportunities in transitioning economies. So it's both sides of the equation. The intent is to position the system in a way that it can respond responsibly and quickly to any investment. At the committee, the system CIO said that they consider this to be something that potentially affects all the assets.
Senator Quarterman?
Phil, you said may, though, so they go through all this, the stuff you're talking about, but I guess the simple question, will they be required to invest in some of these things?
It's an investment decision. So they still make the investment decision. The bill does not dictate any particular investment decision. It requires them to gather this additional information. It requires them to factor climate risk into their investment decisions, which they are already largely doing. Right. And then they're making those decisions from an investment perspective consistent with their fiduciary standards of duty to the participants in the system.
Senator Edwards?
Aren't they supposed to look at getting the best investment return they can?
That's the concept that the bill is codifying.
So my thing here is not maybe reading into this negative. You're saying already doing some of this kind of targeted, well, I got fossil fuels. I just want everybody to know here there's a lot of products made out of fossil fuels. It's not just used to burn. And I don't think it would be, appropriate to disinvest in fossil fuels, because you can get medicines from them, you get plastics, you get a whole bunch of other stuff that you may not be able to get otherwise. And so I have a concern there. Maybe someone can
Well, and
convince me that that's not what's being targeted.
Senator, one of the considerations that came up is that on the concept of just a straight divestment, there may be some companies that may target that may actually be companies that are going to be providing that investment opportunity in a transitional economy.
Senator Elfreth, do you want to add to this?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Edwards. This, to Senator Corbin's point as well, this is not micromanaging the system. This is codifying their current practice that very much started under former Treasurer Kopp. She was the one who led on this issue for a number of years. The staff has wholeheartedly adopted this kind of lens that we are codifying here. It also, as Philip said, protects us against fluctuations in federal guidance. And it is not a divestment bill. It is a formalizing the process by which the system should be viewing investments, and then their engagement. If engagement with a company is the right thing, that's what they should do, which they already do. If they deem divestment is the most responsible thing for the fiduciary responsibility of the system and the sustainability of the system's money, that's what they will do. But it is not directing them to do one thing or another. It's simply saying we should be considering climate risk, mostly because of how vulnerable Maryland is to the effects of climate change when they're making their decisions.
Senator Edwards?
Well, okay, I hear that. Is there a reporting clause in here that they report to legislators or
Yes,
someone?
so there's existing reporting requirements that were included back in, I think, 2018 regarding all sorts of system risks, not just climate. This would be run through that reporting mechanism. So the existing climate reporting requirements would include everything that these new provisions are addressing.
Well, I still have some heartburn with this, because people are all involved today that fossil fuels, we get rid of them, don't invest in them, and they're some of the best investments. And just again to say, a lot of things are made out of fossil fuels. It isn't just for energy production, which is the main culprit with climate change. So, Mr. Chairman, I might vote to get this out of here, but I reserve my right to vote against it when it's on the floor.
Yeah.
I
Senator,
should say, to clarify, this doesn't target fossil fuels. I mean, this is dealing with climate change in the broadest possible sense. I mean, maybe you want to, invest in a stronger dock in Annapolis. I mean, it's everything related to climate change, not targeting anybody. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Senator, you want to have a little offside discussion maybe with Senator Elfreth to make you feel, I'd like you to feel comfortable about this. Because I hear what you're saying. I don't believe that it's the kind of problem that I think you're interested in dealing with. So I'm happy just holding on for a little bit more if you have that conversation. And you do what you need to do is the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, I got no problem with that, but I want you to, if you can feel comfortable with it, I think it'd be a good thing. We don't have,
I don't want to hold things up. I'm glad to do that if she's
Yeah.
willing.
Okay, that's
I
what
just
we're
think
gonna
we
do.
need to look at all sides of
maybe you
this
get with
thing.
Senator Quarterman also,
Yep.
the three of you. Anybody else who has any concerns, have a discussion. I think this is the right thing. It's the wave of the future anyway. I mean, we have, I think we have a responsibility, certainly in the short and long term, and I think this is a measured approach, personally. But I understand everybody comes from a different perspective, and that's fine. All right, we're gonna move on from that one. We'll hold that, let them have that conversation and
Okay.
see where it goes.
Senate Bill 739, this is one more joint committee on pensions bill. This deals with, it's follow-up legislation related to compensation for the investment division. It deals with two issues. One, the prior legislation authorized the board to set the compensation and the positions for the investment division actions of the system, and also included provisions allowing for incentive compensation. Within that legislation, there were some guardrails put in, so for the existing employees, the compensation wasn't it was prohibited to increase it more than 10% year over year. They were trying to get their employee pay scale up to a national midpoint. What's happened for the first part, which is going to be dealt with in uncodified language at the end of the bill, is that as they've expanded and brought on new people, they have this disconnect now where they have some employees that are either at the same level and making more than their counterparts because they're newer, or in some instances, people reporting to others and they're making more. So the first piece of the bill allows for them to do up to 2 salary adjustments to get employees to the midpoint. The other piece of the legislation deals with the incentive compensation. The original legislation had restrictions on paying out the compensation if somebody left their job. An issue came up, a question about what happens when somebody retires. So the idea was hold that incentive compensation if they leave. It's a retention incentive. But when somebody retires, that same retention incentive is not there. And so it allows for any outstanding incentive compensation, which has to be paid out over multiple years, to be paid out if a person is retiring directly from their role in the investment division.
Okay, so this is just adjusting for the fact that we allowed them to adjust salaries.
Yeah,
And it kind of messed up the pay scale
correct.
and,
We've had a couple years of this, and there's just some very common sense corrections, and particularly in the job market today, this will be helpful in the investment division, retaining and recruiting new staff.
it's all within their budget, though.
Correct.
All within their budget. Great. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, was that it?
That's it.
Okay, how about, let's doing, the one we did today, 593. This was just adding that reporting requirements to, the SAC reports.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Hard to believe I got one with my name on it through.
I'm impressed. And you didn't want to meet tonight.
All right, how about 349? That's a local one in Baltimore County.
I don't have a letter.
You didn't have, I thought you did. The Heddleman one?
I don't have a
No? Oh, okay, if you don't, it's fine, yep, so. You love that, don't you? What was the dollar on that one?
369.
Yeah.
Uh, 665 to get it up and going, and then about 280, 275 a year.
Okay, let's talk about it. 369.
Sorry to do, I have the different batch of bills in my head, but I have it. Can I tell you about the amendments?
Absolutely.
Okay. The amendments all came from the comptroller's office, and we've been working with them quite a bit on it. So let me just tell you what the amendments are. The first one clarifies that the intent of the program is to help low-income residents claim the EITC. Program will only apply to low-income residents who have filed their federal return but have failed to claim the credit on their state return or haven't filed their state return. Accordingly, the amendment requires that the resident's federal return must have been received by the comptroller so that COM can use the federal data to calculate the state credit. Okay, that's one. Next amendment was, it allows the comptroller to create a simplified return, which they will call an EITC claim form or something similar, rather than providing full-fledged tax returns, and this will minimize administrative burden for COM and promote participation in the program. Number 3 provides that the legal requirements for filing normal tax returns also apply to these EITC claim forms, including the time in which the credit must be claimed. Number 4 requires that as part of the program, the comptroller includes a statement on the claim forms that provide notice of the resident's potentially eligibility for the federal and state EITC for the following tax year. And this will help raise awareness for the EITC and reduce the need for residents to continuously participate in the program. Number 5, ensures residents can request waiver of penalties or interest when there is an adjustment that would alter the credit after the claim form is submitted, as is standard in current law. And number 6, adds a reporting requirement and sunsets the program after 5 years so it can be reevaluated.
Okay. And at the end of the day, what are we really doing?
Yeah. What is it about?
The bill as it came in, had the comptroller basically going in and filling out tax returns for people who didn't file for the EITC. That was a little bit beyond what the comptroller really wanted to get into. So the senator worked with the comptroller's office to come up with some middle ground here. And that's where they came up with this hybrid form that they're gonna have. And the comptroller's not gonna be filling out and preparing people's tax returns now. Now the comptroller is gonna have this expedited process for people who didn't claim the EITC to then come in and claim the EITC. There was one change that came about after the senator submitted the amendments, and it was really just a date. The first year of this program is going to be tax year 2025. The first year of the report is December 31st, 2025. Tax year 2025, you don't start filing until January of 2026, so there would be nothing to report on. So the idea was, I think we just wanted to change the 2025 to 2026 for the first date of the report.
Okay.
Everything else the senator said was great.
Yep.
Those were the amendments, yes.
Okay, Senator Quarterman.
Thank you.
Quick,
Do you have this list?
Yes.
did I hear correctly, Senator King, when you were going through that to be eligible, that you had to file your federal return, though, is that correct, that you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Zucker, you want to take the rule?
No,
Oh, okay.
because this is just dealing with policy, not, but I was just going to say that the reason why you cannot do a Maryland tax return without having your federal return already completed, that's what the comptroller works off of. And part of the reason why the comptroller's office, I'm sure, didn't want to proactively fill out someone's tax return, which seems like a great constituent service, is it would really
Liability.
promote fraud. I mean, it could really create issues and scenarios of fraud. So I think the amendments that the senator has sort of addresses, Senator, doesn't it address all those kind of concerns, I think?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. All those in favor of the bill as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 349.
This is a local bill. I do have a letter from the Baltimore County delegation. There were some amendments that they adopted. I don't know if reprints, we managed to get those handed out, but probably not. What the bill does is it authorizes, so currently with the state homeowners tax credit, there's an income limitation for eligibility of $60,000. This would be a tax credit for Baltimore County only for people who failed to meet that criteria, but also have experienced a hardship, meaning like an illness or accident or property casualty. It is authorizing for the county, and the amendment basically is adding a criteria that says initially, yes, the income was above 60, but if after you deduct the expenses that I had to pay to deal with the hardship, that would have brought, therefore, my income below 60, is what their amendment does.
Senator Young, you got a question?
Yeah. I'm beginning to wonder why we don't just give tax credits to anybody that breathes.
I think we do.
But I don't read in this, and I'm just looking at it quickly, that it defines hardship,
That's on page 2 of the bill, beginning on line 3.
beginning on line 3.
3.
Hardship means an illness or accident related to injury
We
or
are
homeowner,
on 349.
your family. And what's the?
I don't actually disagree with you, Senator. It's a little, it seems
Yeah.
a lot in some ways. However, I think we've always done for the most part, we have a strong, I think, history of here dealing with courtesy to a county who wants it.
Well, we do. We also have, at least on the committee as I serve, a strong one of looking at a bill that maybe everybody else is gonna want, and it's setting a precedent. And
Sure.
I think this does that. Does it say what the tax credit is?
No, the governing body, if they choose to do this, would have to set the amount of that.
See, to me, again, that opens it up to political favors and other things. If there's no definition, I'm buddies, they give me a good one, they don't give the next person one quite as good.
Well,
I
they,
mean,
they would have to set the same amount for each taxpayer that fits these criteria. They can't pick and choose an individual. If you meet these criteria, then
But
their
there-
law would need to have the same
There's no
credit for them.
criteria in here as to what the tax credit is.
No, I mean the criteria in terms of eligibility.
You're eligible if one of those three things happen. But
Well, no, you're then also eligible under lines 14 through 22, plus the additional one that I mentioned, which unfortunately you probably don't have in front of you.
I don't see anything in there that says how much the tax credit will be. So that
Correct.
they could give me and somebody else a different one.
They really shouldn't. That would be illegal under uniformity. So they would, in their own law, say that this tax credit for, if they meet the criteria of the bill in terms of eligibility, the tax credit equals whatever. And they would have a law that would state that.
So they can do that, but they can't do this?
don't-
I mean,
I don't know
we
what it means.
approve half of the law and they approve the other half?
Yeah, you're giving them the authority in this bill, allowing them to pass their own law that does these other things. That's kind of standard for property tax credits. So because the General Assembly would be giving them the authority to do it, that's what they need in order to then do it. It's just that there is a bifurcation of saying, this bill would create, here's the square in which you need to operate, but you have the power to do these other things within that square.
Okay, well, I don't like to vote against local bills, but when once, I just think this is too much. And I think it sets a precedent. So,
Okay. Senator Salling?
I'm pretty positive, didn't we get a local letter stating we all supported this as a delegation?
Correct.
Okay, and I think it's cross-filed, and I think the Baltimore County House delegation passed this, and I think being a local bill, we all got support in that, if I'm not mistaken, which we didn't hear that yet, but I'm sure we did. So, thank you.
Didn't I just see Senator Jackson? Okay, Senator Quarterman.
No, I hear the concerns of my friend from Frederick County, and same with you, Mr. Chair, but I would, to my friend in Baltimore County, again, I think that, it's a local bill, it just enables the folks in Baltimore County want to do that, that's, that's up to them. They just need authorization from us, so, again, if another bill comes in, from another community, that's because they want to do that, and we'll address it at that time, but, again, it's a local bill, I think it's, the courtesy should be given to support them if that's what they want to do, so thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
I agree with the good senator from Hagerstown.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Favorable with amendment.
Whoop.
Senator Young.
Senator Young. Okay. Fair enough. I think that does it.
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well,
So,
we are done.
though.